Hello. Doing another Artist Conversations in a second with the brilliant Team Picture. So just wait for them. Are they coming? Oh. You need to request to be in the video. I can see you're on there. Just press request. You should get in. There we go.
Can we do it? Can we do it
Hi,
right?
sorry.
Oh, hello.
Oh my god, what a rigmarole.
Yeah, I completely forgot how to use any sort of device then.
I know you kept trying to video call me and I was like, that's not it. It's not it. But obviously when it's just me on here, I'm just like going, what? I think everybody's used to the like awkward starts and ends of these kind of things now.
They're kind of looking directly at the camera and then looking away.
There was one in work the other day. We had to do some training in work, and it was the worst thing ever. Like they had like sound, and one of them couldn't get their like stuff together.
Oh no!
And there was literally like hundreds of members of staff watching, and the woman running it was just like pulling her hair out. Man, God,
that's very awkward. Very
so
awkward.
bad.
That's really difficult. How are you anyway? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
As well as can be.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Good. Well, nice to see your pretty faces.
Trying to get a good angle here.
Yeah. Just gotta get back. Oh, I've got a great little weird setup on like loads of books here, just like
we
wait,
need that.
propped up. That's the way to do it. So while they're setting up, for people that have started watching, we're going to have a little chat today about support that is available for artists, musicians, music creators, and even people working in music in other ways, like producers or managers, that sort of thing. We're trying to, as Launchpad, we've got our own talent development program for emerging artists and music professionals. But we're also trying to shed some light on some of the other support that's out in Yorkshire, well, not just for Yorkshire, but we are directing it for Yorkshire artists and sort of telling people what's available, how to find out about it, how it all works, like demystify it all a little bit. And we thought the best way to do that was have some chats with artists like Team Picture, and like the couple of ones we've already done, that just shines a bit of a light on what's out there and what help you can get and how it benefits you. So yeah, welcome Team Picture. Do you want to say a little bit about yourselves and just like what you do, what music you make?
Always really bad at that kind of stuff.
Go on, elevator pitch, go.
We're a band. 5 of us. We released an album a couple of months ago. Yeah, we're really good. We're really good.
Really great. Really good. It is really great. So well done. Congratulations on your album, which is called
Menace of Music.
There you go. I didn't want to risk getting that wrong.
Helpful, actually. Yeah, maybe we should have thought on that, but oh well.
No, but it's great. It's really, really good, and obviously, perhaps not as planned or as originally set out, with obviously the situation that's happened. But I guess what we want to tell people about and focus on and give people the opportunity to watch now and watch back is like how the support that you've had has helped you. So perhaps like, because you've had the Do It Differently fund from Help Musicians, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, and that's helped towards your album. So I don't know if you want to just say a little bit about maybe like where you were at when you found out about the funding and how you found it like applying, and what your initial plans were when you were applying.
Yeah. Do you want to go for that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we couldn't have really even done the album without the Help Musicians funding, really. Well, we couldn't have done a lot of stuff around the album. We'd done a bunch of recording independently, and then we at the time had been turned down for loads of different funding stuff, like PRS funding and stuff like that. So we were kind of in a bit of a position where we were like, we've got this great music, but we don't know how we're going to be able to afford to pay for any of the stuff around it, any of the campaign stuff, any of the art, anything like that. So we put this bid in to Help Musicians, which is largely centered around working with an artist. The artist we ended up working with is a guy called Louis Byrne, who I guess like Leeds native, so like should know from loads of stuff he's done. He's great, and we were lucky enough that Help Musicians really liked our pitch. They gave us some financial aid, and that meant that we could then afford to create some really good art in collaboration with Louis. We could work with PR companies, and just basically all the kind of stuff, all the gubbins around like a campaign that you kind of don't really think about when you're making the music.
So you didn't go for actually like recording or mastering, any of that kind of stuff. This was kind of beyond the recording process. Is that right?
Around it, yeah. We'd kind of already done all that stuff, and so that was even more amazing that they even funded us then, because there was actual no creation of new music happening with the funding. It was all about the art side of things, which is pretty.
And I'll definitely sort of have you back on that one as well, in terms of like, because I personally believe that artwork is a big part of the band, and especially for bands like yourselves or my band Magic Mountain. Like, I think we're very keen for it to all be, part of it. And I think sometimes from an industry perspective, that can come across as like, this is promo. And I know actually that's where we fell down on it on the first application. We got declined the first time we applied, because they'd classed my kind of like the budgeting splitting that we'd done actually. So they'd said that because it's meant to be under 50% marketing costs, and we'd put in for like video and artwork and mastering, I think, originally, and they classed all the video stuff as promo and marketing, whereas we classed that as artwork and creation. So there's definitely, and I think we had a conversation about that afterwards and sort of shifted where we were going with it and put in more for like mixing and mastering and things like that. So there's definitely a level of like figuring out what exactly you're asking for and making sure that's in line with what they're wanting.
Definitely. I think that often people are quite specific, and if you look at the kind of fine print, or even if you're able to kind of speak to someone directly, they'll often give you a few tips about, actually, we're not going to consider it if you're not specific enough, and if you kind of and go into too much detail about things that aren't directly going to relate to the music that you're putting out or whatever. So it's definitely a trial and error, I think, a lot of the time. But and like you say, every band is different, and every group of people are different, whether how much importance they place on things like the artwork that you're putting out and that
totally. And that's obviously going to be different for different genres as well. So obviously we're both from like a band background, generally sort of guitar-y music, but obviously all of these maybe it's not obvious, but these funds are open to like loads of different genres and types of people and backgrounds and all sorts. And it's, I think all funders are keen for things to be diverse as well. But yeah, it's going to mean really different things to different people. So that's something we're trying to work on with Launchpad, actually, is like the process of how we offer support and how we like share guidelines and things. So give people as much opportunity as possible to say, this is what we're asking for. Just like bullet point your answers for what we're asking, and you'll be in with a good chance. Whereas you can have, because I've been on the judging side of it, you can end up with stuff with brilliant music, but the plan isn't there, or maybe the question hasn't been answered, or the budgeting's all off, and those things really do make a difference. So did you guys get any help with your application or anything like that?
Yeah, we had help from a couple of people who we really trusted, who have really kind of mentored us. People we're currently working with as well, like Scott Lewis of Clue, and also various other things. I think Scott do stuff with you guys too.
Yes, yeah. Because we went through the Launchpad process before we applied for Help Musicians, so he helped us do that. So I think, you know, that's why it's quite interesting talking to you, because Launchpad wasn't quite around when you were at that like point that was before the album. I think we'd only just started maybe recording, or we had demos, and when we applied for it, it was like, okay, so we know we're going to need like mixing and mastering and this kind of stuff. But so that's where we went for Launchpad and got that, and Scott helped us with you know, things like social media and some of the like digital stuff, and also applying for these funds as well, giving us some advice. So that was quite like a neat little stepping stone for us. And obviously you've jumped because Launchpad wasn't around, but like you said before, you didn't get PRS funding. Which fund was it that you applied for with that?
PRS haters.
No.
PRS doesn't know. No, we've been we have applied for Momentum funding a few times, and we've been turned down as many times. So
it's a really competitive fund, that, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a big one as well, and I think after having gone for something as quite as kind of large in a way of in terms of both kind of aim and like the money that you're like asking for, we've got Momentum is probably one of the biggest ones and one of the biggest funding applications that you can make.
Yeah.
And so then actually going through Help Musicians, which is something that that made a lot more sense, and we've been able to speak directly with them, and it was on a smaller scale, but it was really important to us, and we kind of it was clear to us, and then I think therefore it meant clear to them, and because it made it smaller scale, it meant that it wasn't as kind of an overwhelming task, you know, to write it.
The Help Musicians like form was, I mean, the PRS form. This is another thing you see when you go to like do funding applications. Some of them are just like so freaking terrifying to try and fill out. And the Help Musicians form was, the entire application process was actually, it felt like a much more musician friendly form.
Yeah. Did you, so you know they do video applications as well. Did you choose to do the video application or the written application, or a bit mixture?
With that one, we have just done a video application for something else, and that was like a whole other different set of hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, there's so many different formats of it, and each one of them are like terrifying in their own special.
Yeah, definitely. I think you know, I think some people find it really natural to write. Some people find it really natural to chat to camera. I mean, I think I'm slightly of the slightly older generation that is like not quite used to like just constantly talking to a phone, you know, and just like, it's a bit strange, but that's really natural for some people, isn't it? So that's something we've added into our Launchpad process as well, is like you can choose between them. We've just started judging our latest round, our like third and final one for the year, and I saw a video application today. It was only like one application was video. And they'd done a really good job, actually. It felt like they'd written it and then spoke it. So it was like best of both worlds. Like you got across the personality and things like that. So
definitely a good technique, that I think, because some people can probably just improvise and whatever, but when you've got to remember that many like figures and whatever, it's
not waffle.
Sat there for like 2 weeks, like timing this script and like speaking out loud and being like, oh, okay, well, this is like 39 seconds, cool. All this kind of like getting like really specific with it.
Please give it.
Yeah, please, somebody give us money. It's like super, put the work in it. Just, I guess it just makes it seem like you actually care about what you're talking about.
Totally. And it feels like just again something that we've been doing some work on. We put some little graphics up recently that was a bit of a like, what stage are you at and what funding could you apply for? Because it feels like, because there's limited support, there's like a lot of people do go for like Momentum, and it feels like one that you really have to be ready for, and you need a team or a bit of a team around you, and I have to have like national press and stuff like that. And I think because people aren't maybe aware as much of like Help Musicians, or well, now they've just brought out the Momentum Accelerator, which is like a up to 5k one, and Women Make Music. So they're like, it's like these kind of stepping stones a little bit. And so I think like just trying to raise awareness of that, and it's really important, I think, for like artists to talk to each other. I don't know if you found that with like within anyone else that you know or have chatted to, in terms of like, oh yeah, you should apply for this, or like I applied for that, and whether
Definitely.
that's been useful.
I think so, because I think ultimately you're not the only, it can feel a little bit hopeless obviously whenever you're not successful, and you can get down about it, but ultimately a lot of people are in the same boat. And also it's quite a daunting thing for a lot of people who don't maybe feel as comfortable with writing funding applications, so sharing that knowledge. And we've been very lucky to have access to people who are, and support from people who are, you know, able to add to it and to give their opinion. But I think it's, yeah, part of the community of being like, look, obviously we need money to be able to do what we're doing, so let's share the knowledge and the information, so we can all kind of, you know,
Yeah, and it feels like that's really important at a grassroots level, doesn't it? Because when things start to get a bit bigger, or people grow and they get managers and things like that, there feels like there's this kind of like almost like, I don't know, curtain beyond the curtain that's like the music industry, and that managers will then suddenly figure that out for you and stuff. And I know with the Help Musicians and with our Launchpad one, there's that encouragement for people, for artists especially, to be more self-sustaining, and like the more, like, you know, that whole like knowledge is power, like figure things out for yourself. Because, you know, we found that even doing the process of applications can really make you think about where you're heading as an artist, what you actually want. Like, it's not enough to just say, I want to be famous, I want loads of streams, I want this. Like, really be really specific. And like, I don't know if you found that as well. Like, I found it really helpful to channel that and like write it down and go like, oh, actually that's not what we want, that's what they're doing, and that's not what we're doing. And there's so many different ways for different artists to do things, it can get really confusing.
Definitely. And I think it's so cool when people do approach it differently, because often you'll see applications, or just because I've just had a bit of experience with it, where people will you know, it's kind of like, right, PR, right, let's this is how we're going to you know, use it for distribution, for advertising or whatever. And it can be very samey. And I think, sorry, I think it's
Uh-oh.
I think it's yeah, it's also a really good thing for people to use their individuality to then tailor those things for themselves. Because for me, it seemed like some kind of like, what is that? What is PR? What is all this stuff?
Yeah.
If you're not used to talking about some of that kind of stuff, like I'm absolutely hopeless at talking about like specific figures when it comes to like, say for example, like a lot of applications really want you to talk about how you're going to grow your socials and stuff like that, and I'm terrible at finding stuff like that. So I'm like really good at
I
talking
think that's very common for most musicians. You know, most musicians are spending their time writing, recording, practicing, gigging, not thinking about that side of it.
Yeah, so you like we're probably all like most musicians are really great at ideating about how amazing your next project's going to be, but like which we're obviously amazing at, but like totally useless at like a lot of the really specific statistics, which is why it's so great when like you can talk to someone like Scott Lewis or like Tony from Complete, like people who just have like loads of experience and are able to say it in a way that is really clear, which then you can like grab and be like, right, well, I'm gonna stick that in there, and I'm gonna work that into what I was saying really, really clearly.
Yeah.
So
Definitely, and it's like that kind of support's invaluable, isn't it? I mean, people can message Launchpad, ask questions. Music Leads, which is running one of the Launchpad program, is offering advice sessions every 2 weeks, either with Whiskers, who used to run a label. He's the director of Music Leads, was in a band, got like ultimate knowledge, and then Pilbeam, who works for BBC Introducing West Yorkshire, she does one of the sessions. So just like being proactive and like booking in on stuff like that is just like totally invaluable, isn't it, to figure these things out?
Definitely, because I think it's daunting otherwise, isn't it? I know that there are things like Launchpad that are in place now that are just like, they're a friendly service as well, and they're doing good things for for people. You know, you're not like, not everyone's, it can feel like a bit of a lonely thing kind of, and so I think it's nice that there is this support now.
Yeah, definitely. It's like super important to like build that into the community, like we said, isn't it? Really, really important. But yeah, like I found it like really helpful from our perspective, and it sounds like it's gone well for you guys. But how have they like helped musicians? I guess how have they been in terms of whether if your plans have had to change because of like this situation? Like how did you deal with that, or like how did they react to that sort of thing?
It's been. Oh, sorry, trying to. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, it's been really good. Like our scale of our timeline for what we said initially to help musicians just ended up just being way off.
Yeah, I was just a bit too.
Like it was crazy. But it was completely not even an issue because I think there was like specific funding periods, and essentially as long as we kind of got it done and got it done to a high standards, then no one was on our back basically being like, hey, you need to, this doesn't exactly match what you told us.
Yeah.
Instead, very much like I sent them a couple of emails being like, here's where we're at, here's what's been happening, here's what we've been working at, here's what's done, here's what needs to be done, and here's when hopefully some of this stuff will be done. And I think that was a good dialogue to have backwards and forward, just being really open about open about our working process.
Yeah, that's really.
Things never go to plan, like musically. Like you always think you're gonna have stuff done by a certain time. Inevitably, it always takes like 5 times longer. Or
oh yeah, I think we planned in our timeline for our album to be out in June, and I was like, we didn't really give ourselves enough time. And like, obviously with the current situation, because we're like getting vinyl press and stuff like that, like having to just allow so much more time for things to happen. And you know, I think we've been, so ours is coming out at the end of October, so it has pushed back quite a lot, and they've been totally fine about that. I think, like you said, that like constant or open communication, like not constant, it's just like an email here or there, or having those chats. So yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. I was gonna ask something else and it's gone out of my head. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, no, it's gone. It was connected to that, but we'll move on. Don't have the brain power to go back in time. Yeah, I guess like what are your thoughts kind of now as well, having been through that process? I mean, we do want to, because there's a deadline for Help Musicians on Monday, which we're trying to share some information about all of this kind of stuff and encourage people to apply, but also I probably want to reiterate, and you probably would as well, not to rush it, not to maybe do it in a couple of days, but if you're still working on it or have been, then hopefully this can be helpful.
Yeah, I suppose the thing for me would always be just to leave enough time just to get someone you really trust to take a look over it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like to cast a quick eye upon it and make sure you haven't made any monumental screw ups.
Yeah, like, and don't leave that till a couple of days before, because the chances are there'll be other people asking those very same people.
Yeah. Also, like, I guess make sure the idea that's in your head is really clear and you've been able to communicate it really well. Because I know that a couple of times when we've done something a little bit rushed, actually when you put it down on paper and you look back at it, you get this kind of like gut feeling that you're probably not going to be successful, because maybe it is like, it's clearly kind of unclear to you a little bit what exactly it is you're asking for sometimes. So it's probably going to be unclear to the person reading it. Like our musicians one, when we did that, it just felt like it felt like really clear. It felt like a really good idea that we had. We had all the stuff around it to say we can demonstratively do this really well, and everything kind of lined up really nicely. Saying that, like, even if you do all have that stuff, it doesn't mean you're going to get funded necessarily, but it really helps to have that. So you probably should like make sure that stuff is done in enough time for you to make sure that is like you're not worrying about how clear you're being.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think having like even a couple of days to be able to just step away from it and come back to it, read it again, check you've actually answered the question, even check through the guidelines again, and just go, have I answered that and have I answered that? Because that is where, you know, on the Launchpad side of things, that's where we've seen people fall down a little bit. And again, we've, you know, made the form as simple as we possibly can for artists at an emerging level. But yeah, just really going through and checking, because a one sentence answer where they're saying maximum word count is like, I don't know, 300 words something. That's the funder kind of going, we're kind of suggesting you write about 300 words here.
Yeah. I think just on a similar point there, I was just going to mention, it's also quite good to give it to someone who isn't necessarily part of like the industry like, you know, because then it's kind of like explaining to someone who really doesn't know, where can't even piece it together, someone who has to be explained super clearly to. And so and it also just double checks, like, is this someone, even though obviously the people looking at it will have experience, but it's more just like, it can make so much sense in your brain, but then to other people it could be like, what are they on about? What's this about music and art? And
I feel like I've had like so many ideas where we thought they were like really good, and then you try and explain them to someone else, and they're like, right, so how are people going to buy this?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, actually.
Because we were in our own little bubble all the time, just being like, oh, it's going to be great. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because obviously, like, the development of the creative side and the music and production and rehearsing and all of these skills that we are learning and growing and developing as artists, it's kind of easy to really lose yourself and focus on that. And either some people think that maybe someone else is going to do this stuff, but especially at a grassroots level, people ain't going to do stuff. So, you know, obviously you can get favours from friends to help with artwork or whatever it is, but you've got to start to learn this stuff, you know, like how to do an application or how to promote stuff, or how to, you know, there's like basic levels of how to do things, isn't there? And like, I don't know, did you find, like, going through not just the process of the application but the actual project, was there anything that came up that you were like, I've never would have thought we would be having to figure out how to do that, or, you know, anything that came up that was like a new kind of experience, I guess?
Instagram lives.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. There were so many different aspects to it. There were like, it wasn't just us two, like, in doing stuff. We had like, there was loads of like art stuff we had to work out and things. Like loads of stuff that I don't know. I think when you're embarking on a project of a scale that you've never done before, you
surprise yourself.
Yeah, you gradually kind of realize just how much stuff there is to do.
Yeah.
So that Menace is that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even like the weirdest thing was, maybe it's lucky that we've got kind of like artists on board, but thinking like, what grade of paper do we need to buy, and what size does it need to be for like posters, or for like for something that we chose to do. It was like, does it need to be, it was like American Psycho or something, like what grade does it need to be?
Yeah. Just there's just always so much stuff that you don't think about that you've got to figure out, and you know, that you might have missed in your budget as well, or like learning how to like manage it as a project as well, because obviously when you have got like funding or other kinds of opportunities like mentoring or advice and that sort of thing, you've got to think about it as a project, and you're being held accountable by other people. So it's great that you've got somebody or people that are believing in you to do this project, but you've got to like kind of own it, haven't you, and be like, we've got to get this done. We can't be like faffing around.
Absolutely. I don't think any of us are really very good in managing things. Really.
Yeah, definitely stuff like that, where it's like,
it's not something that I claim to be good at. So having someone on board is great.
Yeah.
Like it kind of motivates you, because all of a sudden it's like, oh man, someone wants to give us a lot of money to do something really good, so we best deliver.
Yeah.
Not like having a boss a little bit.
Yeah, the boss.
Like
Totally. That's funny that actually you say that, because when you were talking about getting someone else other than somebody in music to check through your application, it reminded me about thinking of it a bit like a job application almost. Like, you wouldn't just put like a one-word answer, or you wouldn't just be like, yeah, I'm good at this. You'd be like, I need to show them that I'm good at this, and why, and where it's come from, and all the different things we've done. And you know, it's sort of like thinking about it like that, isn't it?
Definitely. I'd show it to my dad. Do you know what I mean? If it was on my CV or something, just give it to your dad or something.
Give it to your
Give it
dad.
to your
Just
dad.
give it to your dad. So
Okay.
what?
Dad, turn it.
Exactly.
So what are you thinking about your, like, what's happened now, and like how the album's been going, and what are you thinking of working towards next, and what kind, I guess, you know, are you looking for more support and that sort of thing?
Well, I guess it was kind of a weird time to release an album, but that's okay because we're really glad that we've done it and it's out, and that I'm like not too bothered about that because I know that it's out there and people can enjoy it on whatever scale they want to. So that's fine. It would have been nice to play some shows, but we're going to do that in March, hopefully. I don't know. So
Yeah.
like that's a thing. I'm really excited about that. Other than that, we're basically just straight back to we're doing loads of writing and recording, and we're someone to give us some money to allow us to do that really well next year. So that is our main thing right now. We're right back in our practice room.
Great, that sounds really good. I think you know, it's important, isn't it, to also think about what you'll do if you don't get that support, or if maybe the reason you've not got the support is from the funder's perspective, either you're not quite at the point where they're ready to fund you in terms of like level or like proof of what you've been doing, that sort of thing, or they've just had stronger candidates or whatever. And it's probably important to reassure people that you can apply again, that you can try a few times with different things, and actually not to be totally put off if you get rejected, because you can, you know, then potentially you're just, as long as you're like proactive and keeping on doing stuff, you're going to be further down the line, aren't you? So the next time you apply, you will have got a better plan together, or you will have done more stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, hopefully, and hopefully, you know, the success. Hopefully, your previous project has been a success, and you can use that as a demonstration of hey, you can fund us, and we'll do something good.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like that's a really positive thing, isn't it? I think if you work really hard to get all these things together, you know, your music's great, your plan's great, your video or your written thing is really strong, you've got advice, you've done all of those things, and you may or may not get it, and you try again, or you do get it and you're successful, and then you basically just keep going, because once you get some sort of support and somebody's believed in you, and you can prove that you've done a really good job and that you're building stuff and you're moving forward, it is more likely that you'll get more support, because you can say, this is the proof of what we've done. So that feels like a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's I suppose it's about keeping that momentum, but which again is like, it's such a hard thing at the moment, because
Yeah.
musicians, their main thing is that they play gigs, and that you support other musicians, and that's it, isn't it, really? But like at the moment, it's obviously difficult. So I think there are other ways that you can keep going, and by applications and things, there's it reminds you of all the things that you can be doing.
It's kind of been a nice, and obviously there's not been really anything nice about anything that's happened for the entire year, but like it has been kind of like a scant positive of being like, all right, well, I can't play live ever again, so let's try and think of like, let's try and think of what we can do instead. Let's instead focus all our energy on writing some really good music, or let's try and some other kind of project that will work in this horrifying new world we live in. Like that vibe, you know, which is kind of cool, because I'm just totally fully down for like doing stuff that is in fact just completely creative, as opposed to being like, what happens.
And that's really important, isn't it? Like throughout the projects, and obviously such extreme different circumstances that we've found ourselves in this year, like it's really important to tap into your creativity and resilience, which isn't always going to happen. You know, everyone's going to have those days or weeks or months where it's just like, you know, I didn't pick up a guitar for a few weeks at the start of it, because it was just all like, I'm not in a creative headspace at all, and find other things to occupy yourself or whatever. But actually, you know, once it's, I mean, it's all up and down, isn't it? But, you know, thinking a bit more about how you can be creative in a different time, and, you know, doing things like live streaming, or like chats like this, and like all of this kind of stuff, it is another opportunity, even though I know gigs are my favourite thing as well, but they're not for some people. And maybe live streams is actually making things more accessible to people. There's people are maybe putting more into like video art and visual art and illustration and things like that. So I guess, yeah, while we can't play gigs, we'll just keep trying to be positive and sharing things. And yeah,
that side of things is really important. Is yeah, that's one thing to take away from it. Definitely is the visual video, like the videos and art and stuff that's now.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, and further down the line, that's going to have built up your identity and uniqueness as an artist or band, isn't it? And actually that's then going to give you more strength when you do come to like apply for other things or approach a label or anything like that, because you can kind of go, this is what we are, this is what we've been doing. And it's, yeah, so trying to focus on the positives.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, it has been a tough year, but at least we do have support out there for us artists trying to help, so that's really good. But yeah, maybe we should leave it there, but unless there's anything else that you want to add or talk about.
We've been clear. I'm not the clearest person sometimes.
No, it's been great.
Anything that we've said has been helpful to anyone at all in some kind of manner. Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I think it's been really great. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Thanks for coming on, and yeah, good luck with everything that's happening, and hopefully we'll get to see each other down the Breed and L soon.
Yeah,
Sure.
see you soon.
Cool.
Bye, love.
Bye. See you later.
Do we leave?